What's the strangest thing you've ever seen someone casually do while you were in their home? Gave plates to their dogs to lick clean and put the plates directly back into the cabinets. I'm hoping they were fricking with me. Made hot chocolate with buttermilk because they were out of milk and kept trying to reassure me it would taste good, maybe like pudding. Also later they asked me if I wanted pizza and I was like, yeah sure. They then took out a couple of slices of white bread, put some ketchup and cheese on them and just served them like that. Didn't even heat them up. I hope they were arrested. My friend berating his sister through the window of the bathroom while sitting on the toilet while smoking a cigarette. BC, she spilled her mojito in the pool. That went from hillbilly to hot crap real quick. She didn't chew her food. One time when I was a little kid, I went to my friend's house. Her mom made us mac and cheese. I got my plate and started eating. When I looked up, she had already cleared her plate. I asked how she ate so fast and she casually says that she doesn't chew. Mac and cheese can just be swallowed because of the sauce. I tried it and can confirm that you can just swallow Kraft mac and cheese, but that was pretty weird. Still love that friend today though. Make a grilled cheese sandwich by throwing cheese directly on a hot pan until it was crispy, then putting it between two pieces of bread with ketchup. This is some weird crap. My neighbor, she has a sofa and behind this sofa there's a whole wall mirror. All her guests are seated there and she sits across from it on her lazy boy chair. She asks everyone a ton of questions. Meanwhile she's staring at herself non-stop. She's a narcissist. That is really freaking weird. I met a couple through my fire dancing troupe. Wife was nice and invited me for dinner. I was in the kitchen with her chit-chatting when her husband walked in, opened the fridge, pulled out a can of shredded Fancy Feast with a little spoon in it, took 2 bites, stopping to savor each one, then put the can away and walked out. He never looked at us. She didn't acknowledge him, just kept chatting with me. I asked her about it after the fact and she denied it happened or that her husband eats Fancy Feast, but I wasn't ever invited over again. Fancy Feast is cat food if anyone was wondering. I had to look it up. Our friend was having a get-together party and invited a bunch of friends over. Most of her friends were still over when all of a sudden she said in a casual way that it was a great eve and she is going to sleep now. Off to bed our host went. We never saw her again and the party still carried on for another 3 hours or so. Either your host had been trying for some time to get you all to leave and gave up, or thought you were having a fun time but they wanted to head to bed so were okay with you continuing on. Not that strange honestly, but not probably acceptable host behavior. Answering for my dad here. He went to this kid's house for the first time when he was maybe 13, and the kid goes, watch this. He then proceeds to crap on the marble floor of their fancy butt house and made the cleaning lady come over and they watched as she cleaned it up. He didn't go over again. He decided he wanted a snack, so he went to the kitchen and came back with a half gallon of milk, a loaf of Wonder Bread, and a quart-sized tub of margarine. Sucker finished all of the bread and milk and probably half the margarine in one sitting, too. The margarine part made me gag. An old roommate moved into the living room. We each had our own bedrooms, but he just decided to put all his blankets on the couch, bring in his PlayStation, ate there, slept there, farted there, would be there when I had friends over, get pee off when I had to leave at 5 AM for work and I woke him up because he was sleeping, or when I had to use the kitchen and he was napping, only went into his room to use the bathroom. It was actually quite infuriating. I talked to him about it and he said he liked the couch better than his mattress and his TV didn't work. High school friends would just destroy my fridge, like eat $100 worth of food and think nothing of it. Finally, after 3 straight weekends of this, my parents put their foot down and told them to bring their own food. My friend's 70-year-old father was having a wash in the laundry sink when I was 10. My first glimpse of a wrinkly penis. Memorable. Then he just walked around the house naked, in front of us 10-year-old girls. No shame. I was 14 and was moving out of my apartment complex, so I decided to hang out at my friend's apartment one last time. My friend was 15 BTW. We were playing 2K when the doorbell rang. My friend opened it and said, "Hey big sis." Apparently his sister had just come to visit from college. Nevertheless, my friend just let his sister in and gave her the biggest smooch on the lips I have ever seen. It was like 4 seconds of lip on lip action. Then my friend's parents came in and they all greeted each other and stuff. After that, he came right back into the room and resumed the game like nothing had ever happened. I was so shook and thought that I hadn't seen what I just saw. This is an SNL skit, I'm pretty sure. It was in my home, which makes this 10x worse. My best friend of about 7 years was staying around my house. I was sat on the floor of my room in front of my bed, on my phone. My friend was sat on the edge of my bed, yet I wasn't really paying much attention to her. My mum walks into my room, so I naturally look up. Me and my mum looks at my friend and say, "Friend's name, what are you doing?" My friend is sat crossed-legged on the edge of my bed, holding one of her bare feet up to her mouth and biting her big toe. She explains how she has dry skin on her feet and prefers to bite it off. Yet as the skin goes into her mouth, she always eats it instead of making a mess everywhere. My best friend ate the skin off her dry toes in my house, on my bed. She never really stayed again after that. My friend pulled out a pickle from a jar, set it on a paper towel which he had just drenched in salt, and dipped the paper towel in the pickle jar, and ate the pickle like an awful banana. I've seen one of my workmates dipping potato chips in mayo, pouring table salt on each chip before eating it. My cousin is one of those people who is weirdly body confident, and he'll just casually take off his shirt or pants at home. Like how a regular person will just shrug off a hoodie or kick off their shoes, he'll just strip down to his boxers and flop onto the couch. Kinda weird. I do this too, but I am fat and hairy. I just have no more fricks left to give. Friends and I got super drunk. My friend had a massive dog, like the size of a bear. My friend decided his dog looked cold, so he crawled into the dog's bed and spooned with the dog and fell asleep. They did look super peaceful, but it was weird. Got invited to this kid's birthday party. He lived on a Coast Guard base and we got in as a visitor or something. Pretty sure the kid had autism or something similar to that. He always acted around the age of 5-7 when he was 12, and would do extremely stupid things that likely would have broken bones in most people but somehow never got hurt, but that's a whole different story. But let's call this kid AK, annoying kid. So I don't want to go because AK is annoying and it was an overnight camping party with BBQ and biking and stuff. My dad forces me to go, and when I show up, out of the 30 kids he invited, I'm the only one to show. It was getting dark, 7-8ish, and it was insanely windy. Being it's only me and him, his parents, that would be camping, and it would be annoying to tent camp in this weather. They ask if we just want to sleep in the living room of his house. I say yes. Didn't want to camp here in the first place, and we go inside, get in and start playing games on his Wii. Playing stuff I like, sports games and then Skylanders. Really cool for me, actually having fun. Then we go to bed at 11 or so, really late for young me that always went to sleep before 9 and never later. About 1 AM or so I'm woken up by an alarm clock going off. iPhone 1. And AK gets up and I don't think he noticed that it woke me up. I was in a mummy bag and in a kind of confused tired state, just laying still looking. He proceeds to turn off the alarm and get up, get a drink and use the bathroom, although I don't know why he needs an alarm for that, but seems more or less normal, and close my eyes. Then I'm woken up a few minutes later by the TV turning on. Keep watching him and he legitimately just woke up at 1 AM to have a drink and watch My Little Pony, then went back to sleep. I asked him why he didn't that and he said he didn't know why and he just wanted to watch it. To this day I have no clue why he waited until 1 AM to do this. He had no problem with me knowing he watched it, and knew I really didn't care, just decided to do it at 1 AM. Out of the 30 kids he invited, I'm the only one to show. That's so sad. His parents must have been crushed for him. Even though he was annoying, it's good you showed up. Smoke Crystal M. I dated a guy in high school whose elder brother had a problem. He was home from university during Christmas, and while my boyfriend and I were in the den, he strolled in, lingered for a while, busted out a pipe and lit up, asked what we were watching and then left. My neighbors stay in their Sunday church clothes all day, even when barbecuing, playing in the yard, walking the dog. They are always dressed in suits and ties and dresses, all of them, the entire family. We're all religious, but when I'm finished with church I come home, throw on lounge clothes and call it good. There's no way I'm staying in pantyhose and an itchy dress all day. Thank you very much. Pro tip. God loves you just as much if you show up to his house in pajama bottoms and slippers. I went to a sleepover when I was about 10. The mom came out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her waist. She stood there and talked to all the kids with her tea out. Her sons seemed to be used to it. Everyone else was like, oh. Was she hot though? In the middle of a Christmas party, one of the hosts just brings out her ring collection and begins polishing them in the middle of the living room. Not showing anybody her rings, just polishing them by herself. The house was decorated with penis statues everywhere, so it was a little strange to begin with, but still. My friend's little sister, about 7 or 8, would just sit on the floor crisscross applesauce and just pee on the floor, and her mom would come by and clean it up. Another time we were about halfway from walking to their house after hanging out at the park. The busy road was right next to us and we were just chilling and walking until the little sister sits down again, crisscross applesauce, and pisses out in public. Her pants and the sidewalk have a huge stain, and me and my friends speed walk out way out of there while the mom has to stop and wait for her to finish. I feel so bad for that woman. I went to a sleepover about 15 years ago, and my friend woke up about 2 in the morning and randomly started eating a bag of crisps. We still call him Walkers, crisp brand. Are mad lads. One of my first jobs out of college, maybe like 8 months in, I decided to hang out with some folks outside of work. I was expecting just a day night of drinking, which ended up taking a slight turn. After having a few beers at the first bar, we hopped in the car with the DD. We ended up going back to one of the guys' mom's house to stop by and grab something really quick, but when we got there, we were invited in. This guy asked me if I was cool and I must have said yes, but didn't fully understand the question. I'm sure many of you have an idea where this is going. Next thing I know, I'm in a living room with 2 of the guys from work, our DD, a friend of theirs, and his mom. I'm the only one not doing lines of coke off the coffee table. As this was going on, totally normal conversation is being had between pretty much everybody but myself, who was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. It was like 4 in the afternoon. Cutting pizza with scissors. I tried it myself sometime and adapted it. TBH, it's way more convenient than these not work on pizza rollers. I always cut pizza with scissors. So easy to do. Pizza rollers are crap. Ashing on the carpet. He ashed basically everywhere, but the carpet is the most baffling to me. If you think a house with dirty ashtrays and smoke lingering smells strong, oh boy, it was like a cigarette cologne emporium. When I was in college, I was visiting a friend in her apartment, and during our conversation she started picking dry scalp off her head and eating it. While going to film school in LA, I was an intern for an Academy Award nominated director. He ran his production company out of his house, and sometimes I would stumble upon him doing really mundane things like laundry or talking about the health benefits of potatoes. The only reason it felt strange was because of his relatively high profile status in Hollywood. They got an ice block and started eating it. Nothing unusual. Puts it in their dog's mouth to let them eat. Nothing unusual. Takes it out covered in dog slobber, and what's it? Just spit on the carpet. Spit on the floor. Kitchen. Living room, everywhere, just spit. This was in a real nice new clean home and was just spitting everywhere. I got home and tried it a few times and it just wasn't feeling right to me. Granted, we were maybe 10, but still. I think I was told and even spit on their floor once maybe. Try it everybody. I did. Wasn't my thing though. Kid let his dog pee and crap in his closet because he was too lazy to go outside. This was on a regular basis. Last time I went over his house after seeing that. Not in someone else's home but in my home, which makes this stranger. A quick note, I know there are some places in the world where you can't flush toilet paper. I do not live in one of those places, and neither did this girl, nor did she grow up in a place that this way necessary. So, a chick comes to my house for business related reasons and asks to use the bathroom. Sure, no problem. Just cleaned it after using my toilet. She places all of her used toilet paper in the bathroom basket, doesn't flush, and doesn't wash her hands. I didn't notice this had happened until hours later when I go to use myself, and I'm hit with this god-awful smell when I walk in and horrors in the toilet. I was seriously livid and ranting for hours. Who does that? I'm still not over it. Was staying at a friend's house and their adorable little Labrador puppy has a blanket. He loves that blanket a little too much. Apparently he was going through the humping phase and his blanket was his favorite victim. When midnight rolled around I was brushing my teeth and my friend was making a bed for me. She blows up the air mattress, gets me some pillows, and puts the blanket on the bed. Her dog's special blanket to be exact. All of the things that I have seen this puppy do to that poor blanket ran through my mind. Heck, this puppy had peed on that blanket in front of me before. She looks me dead in the eye, adjusts the blanket, and goes to her own bed. I made some random excuse and drove home. The next time I went to their house they were rubbing coconut oil on the puppy's balls. Apparently he had overused his assets. They let their dogs eat off the same fork as them at the dinner table. They would take a bite, then give the dog a bite and kept alternating. Not one of my fondest childhood memories for sure. One New Year at a friend's house he and his wife disappears then return naked and shout cabaret time then had sex in front of everyone. My friend just walked to his freezer, pulled out a frozen pizza and asked me if I want some. I said sure and he just pulls another one out for me. I asked him later about it and he said, I was too hungry to share, we each ate a whole pizza. I have a reversal of that. My parents went out on a date night and left my brother and I a frozen pizza. We couldn't find the pizza cutter so we just sat on the couch, watched Tune and passed the whole DiGiorno pizza back and forth for bites. Mayo. I wish we were friends like that now. I don't know if he's embarrassed or hates me but like, I miss that. Casually told his mom to shut the frick up when she told him to get off Xbox. She didn't get mad. We were like 13. I've never been able to say anything along the lines of be quiet to my parents without getting yelled at. Leaving their shoes on indoors. When I was in Spain during a student exchange, I asked my exchange partner where to put my shoes. He just looked at me and was totally confused. Turns out people in Spain keep their shoes on in their houses. It doesn't disgust me or anything but it was strange to see. I'm in the US and I'd say half of households I encounter are shoes on households and half are shoes off. Oh man, I already answered but I just remember something in middle school. Sorry for my crappy grammar. So I had this friend Kevin, and even though we only knew each other for a year we quickly became best friends. So the first and last time I visited him his I think 8 little brothers were sitting on the couch watching the Ice Age, so sure I watched it with them. And after it was over I started it all over again and proceeded to rewatch the movie. So obviously bored Kevin brings me to his room with a smashed door hanging off the hinges and what looked like a M-head's bedroom, like cloths and trash everywhere. For your information I was a slob too but this was insane. Walls paint is chipping and crap. And oh hey, a parrot. So on the way to the kitchen there was like a hot tub room, but I remember he told me it was broken and we weren't allowed in there. Kitchen was empty, no dishes, pretty massive kitchen table, and a fridge that was locked with nothing in it but eggs from their ducks and chili or beans. And at one point the dump truck came to pick up trash and all the kids were excited. They just ran to the window and I actually watched with them. So a year later I lose contact with this kid and 4 years after that I reconnect and well, turns out, the entire family was being sexually abused by the father. Kind of explains a lot. I wasn't in their house specifically but I just wanted to share it. So here you go. My ex-neighbor had a small open washroom which could be directly seen from my hall, which is pretty normal. But the problem was that they had no roof on that and whenever someone went in there they could be directly seen from my hall. So yeah. Also, how they managed to clean it in monsoon is beyond me. Fight. Like. Hardcore. I'm talking a glass getting thrown next to someone's head and shattering as they howl at each other. Maybe I'm from a repressed household, but my family usually waited till company was gone before they'd complain about each other. I've seen couples rip housing apart in the throes of disagreement. I had a weird friend. He kept a bucket in his room to perform his needs in order to avoid walking for 10 seconds to the bathroom down the hall. It stank. He would refill his dog's bowl and then proceed to take one of the bits of food to taste it. His room was always full of papers, class notes on the floor. He would sometimes pick one up, blow his nose, and throw it back on the floor. Brother comes home and just runs straight at him to fight him. I watch them wrestle punch each other for a minute or two before they break away. I just stand there wondering what the heck. When I ask about it, he says they had an argument earlier. No words spoken between them at all. I have an old relative who is very ignorant. Every time when she comes, she freaking walks into the house, which is disrespectful where I live, says nothing, enters the bathroom, does her business, and then just walks out. Most people may think this is nothing strange, but it just irritates me. I was watching TV in the living room and my buddy who is a bit of a nudist called me. I follow the voice and he is sitting on the toilet taking a juice without a shirt on. Mind you, we were a few beers in, but it was still an awkward conversation. My brother would dig a hole, put water in it, then stick a firecracker in said hole and light it, all on a rental property that was in a suburban neighborhood. He is a wee bit of a prio. Unless you have a different definition of firecracker, this is much more normal. The stuff I did as a kid. My favorite, mostly safe thing to do was soaking a tennis ball in rubbing alcohol, lighting it on fire and throwing it around. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.